Okay, so it's a day after the solar eclipse in Leo, right? But it's okay because we're tapping in, we're turning on, we're tuning in right now as we speak. So thank you so much for tapping in, turning on, tuning in with I, Enchantress Thee Babbler, on our revolutionary rise of a high that is happening right now at this moment in time. And beautiful souls, I do owe you an astro catch up. This is going to be a quickie, so we're going to try to get through it as much as we can because I intended to come here and talk to you all for the 8-8 Lions Gate energy, but life was lifing. I've been one busy bee, and that video never happened. So instead of skipping it, we're kind of like infusing it where we are right now because astrology is cyclical, right? One energy moves into another. One experience informs the next, and sometimes we understand something even better once we can see what it is preparing for us, right? So because 8-8 was not the end of the story, it was sitting right at the entrance of an eclipse, right? And now we're here, right? So August 12th was yesterday, right? And it was under a total solar eclipse, right? A new moon solar eclipse at that, right? In Leo at that, right? And so this is where the conversation gets a little bit delicious, right? Because everything surrounding 8-8, power, visibility, creation, courage, abundance, identity, right? Leo, right? Jupiter, right? The fire horse, right? And what we're actually prepared to become is now meeting an eclipse, asking something deeper, right? So who are we when we no longer need an audience to validate who we are? We need to sit with that, right? Because this is not simply another new moon, although that is what I say every single time. But astronomically speaking, the moon passes between Earth and the sun, right? The sun is completely covered, right? And astrologically, this eclipse occurs in Leo, right? And so it's approximately happening in 20 degrees in Leo, right? And when I speak about astrology here, I'm speaking about symbolism, right? Pattern, it's storytelling, it's self-inquiry, right? The sky gives us another language through which we can examine ourselves, right? Because even though today we scientifically understand exactly what that is, right? There's still something profound about watching light disappear, right? And for it to return to, because we do that, right? We do that, right? Like the seasons, right? There's seasons when we shine, there's seasons when we retreat, there's seasons when something obscures the person we thought we were, and there's seasons when our light returns, right? But differently. So maybe this is not about asking, what am I manifesting? Maybe the better question is, what version of me is being eclipsed at this time? Because this eclipse connects with the South Node in Leo, right? And the South Node energy asks us to look at what has become familiar, automatic, overdeveloped, right? Or ready for that release, right? That does not mean getting rid of Leo. We're not getting rid of confidence. We're not getting rid of creativity. We're not getting rid of our leadership, our joy, our visibility, our heart, right? We're stripping those energies back to what is true, right? There is this energy that I create because creation moves through me. And then there's the I create because I need everybody to tell me that I'm brilliant, right? There's also like I need because I have something meaningful to contribute, right? And then there's the I need to be the person that everybody sees, right? So and then there's like the difference between I allow myself to be seen, and then there's I cannot feel valuable unless I am being seen, right? And this distinction matters because maybe some of us have been chasing a version of success somebody else taught us to want, right? Or maybe we have been maintaining identities, right? Because people expect us to remain this type of person. Or maybe we've been performing strength because vulnerability scares us, right? Or maybe we have been living as the achiever, the rescuer, right? The successful one, the responsible one, the powerful one, or the one that always has their shit together, right? Because somewhere along the way, that identity made us feel safe, right? So this eclipse is asking, do you still want that thing? Or do you want the validation attached to having that thing, right? Those are not always the same desire or answer, right? So until you make the unconscious conscious, right, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, right? And that is exactly where this eclipse symbolism becomes useful. Something gets revealed, right? Something changes our perspectives, right? Something we were not seeing clearly becomes harder to ignore, right? So I wouldn't approach this eclipse like some cosmic vending machine. I'm not going to be screaming, like, give me this, give me that, right? Give me the money, give me the person, give me this house, sell this, sell that, right? Or, you know, sometimes wisdom sounds more like, it's not as demanding and more like, reveal what I'm ready to see kind of thing, right? And then we have to pay attention because perhaps manifestation is not always the thing arriving. Sometimes manifestation is receiving information that changes what we want, right? And that takes me back to the 8-8, right? Because the Lions Gate conversation was really about power, and it was about identity, abundance, and responsibility with that, right? The number 8 carries symbolism around power, material mastery, cause and effect, right? Abundance, responsibility, and infinity, right? And the 8, 8, 20, 26, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 16, 26 carries that symbolism beautifully, right? Because the lesson I care about most is this, right? Abundance without stewardship is not mastery, right? Power without integrity is not evolution, and manifestation without participation is just wishing, right? And so now, after the 8-8, where like it's 5 days later, right? This eclipse is asked, fine, you want this expansion, right? But who is the person asking for it, right? Is this dream actually yours? Or did somebody teach you that achieving it would finally make you worthy, right? Or maybe the portal was never somewhere outside of us, right? Maybe our decisions are portals, our boundaries are portals, our endings are portals, right? Our beginnings are portals. Every time we choose differently, that's another portal, right? We create a possibility that did not exist while we continue choosing the same thing before, right? So this is the quantum conversation that we should be interested in having, right? Not wishing ourselves into another dimension, but understanding, overstanding that once we make a different choice, this creates a different consequence, right? Which creates a new experience, right? Which can create a completely different life. So then we have the energy of 2026 and the fire horse energy, right? The fire horse, we haven't had that since 1966, and fire is all about movement, right? Fire creates, fire transforms. So the horse carries symbolism of freedom, right? This momentum, our instinct, right? Independence, right? And we place that inside of Leo season with Jupiter moving through Leo. Then we have this enormous symbolic fire saying, move, right? Create, express, become, right? But with the eclipse interrupting all that movement along, right? it's saying like, before you move, do you know who is moving, right? Because speed in the wrong direction is still the wrong direction, right? Sometimes movement is beginning. Sometimes movement is quitting. Sometimes movement is changing your mind, right? Making a call, right? Starting something new, creating something new, buying this, buying a house, selling a house, right? Leaving a certain relationship, right? Recommitting yourself differently, right? And finally putting your work out in front of people, right? Or sometimes the most revolutionary movement available to us is becoming still enough to realize, I don't want this anymore, right? That's movement too. And Jupiter in Leo magnifies this entire conversation, right? As Jupiter expands, Leo expresses. But the South Node in Leo asks us to release whatever expression has become performance, right? While the North Node in Aquarius pulls us toward evolution. So perhaps we're not being asked to become more visible. Perhaps we are being asked to become more authentic in what we make visible, right? So while Leo is asking, who am I? Aquarius asks, and what does the who that I am contribute to something beyond myself, right? That is balance, right? Not shrinking ourselves for the collective and not making the collective revolve around us, but becoming fully ourselves and understanding how that authenticity participates in something larger, right? Keeping the courage, keeping the creativity, keeping the heart, keeping the joy, keeping the leadership, keeping the willingness to be seen, but releasing the performance, releasing the need to be chosen, right? Releasing the belief that recognition determines value, right? Because maybe the next level is not becoming somebody entirely new. Maybe it's becoming unavailable too, right? For everything that requires us to pretend that we are somebody else. Either way, and so it is, right? Remember what we've been talking about through all of this, right? The sky can give us symbolism. The moon can give us cycles. The eclipse can give us a moment of reflection. But we still have to live the life. We still have to make these choices. We still have to become conscious of what we're creating, right? And what we are carrying and what we're releasing and what we are finally ready to become. So underneath this Leo solar eclipse, right? Do not be afraid of the temporary darkness, because sometimes something has to disappear from view for us to finally be able to see differently, right? Sometimes we have to lose sight of who we thought we were to meet who we actually are, right? And maybe that is the gift inside of the eclipse, not becoming somebody else, not performing some newer, shinier version of ourselves, but returning closer and closer and closer to what is true, right? And that brings this entire conversation right back to where we started, right? The portal was never somewhere outside of us. The portal is this moment we've recognized something and that we choose differently because of it, right? The portal is the boundary, the decision, the release, the beginning, the ending, the courage to say yes, the courage to say no, and sometimes the courage to admit that I've changed, right? And I think there's something absolutely beautiful in that, right? Because we're supposed to change. That's evolution, right? We're supposed to evolve, right? We're supposed to discover ourselves again and again and again throughout this lifetime, right? So allow this eclipse to eclipse whatever version of you no longer need to carry into where you are going. And when that light returns, right, let it meet you differently, right? The wound is the place where the light enters you, and perhaps sometimes the darkness is where we finally remember that the light was never gone. It was simply waiting to be revealed again, right? So anyway, that's what I have for you guys. I told you it was a quickie, right? So thank you so much for tapping and turning on, tuning in with I, Enchantress Thee Babbler, on our revolutionary rise of high. I know I didn't do the elements, but next video. Thank you for tapping in, okay? Bye.